Hey, it's Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres. It's Sunday. Sunday's when I make my best videos, I think. Maybe because we just start later or something, I don't know. But normally Sunday we kind of cut loose and do some of the things that we want to do instead of things we need to do. And maybe that's it, like the pressure's off, I guess. But as you can hear, I got guys behind me over here that are working on some projects over in the welding area and the maintenance area. So that's what they wanted to do. They want to help. But I'd like to catch up and continue with farm hacks. All right, that's the new thing, farm hacks. And the last one I did was for working with totes, and actually one of the guys is working on a way to turn the tops that we cut off into a watering system, and we'll show you that. And a lot of what we're doing is geared towards the Mangalitsa. So not saying it won't work with other types of pigs or other species of animals, it will, but what I'm doing is geared towards what I do, and I raise Mangalitsa pigs and a lot of pastured poultry. We haven't started our poultry yet. When I do, I'm gonna make a big deal out of it this year because there's a lot of interest in that, and it'll be new and fresh, and I got some new ideas because we've learned since the last time that I made a video about pastured poultry. I've learned a lot of things. But right now I want to show you something that has served me very well, and it's a technology that has been forgotten, and it's actually a technology. I was watching one of my wife's videos the other day, and she's talking about bone broth and how beneficial bone broth is to the human body. And we drink bone broth all the time. I can't get enough of it. Once you get used to taking it in, and you have a choice between a cup of coffee and a cup of bone broth wins every time. That sounds crazy, but it's true. This right here is sometimes called a hog pot or a scalding pot. There's a couple pieces to this one. This is where my finger is right here. This is where it would be hanging from on a stanchion, and there's one on the other side. And usually it's hanging over a fire. We modified it to be able to put this shroud around it. That's an old fuel tank, and then there's a cut in the front of it, a cutout spot, and then we can put wood under there to get the heat going. And then on the shroud we put a stove pipe coming up the side to the top there, and then incorporated it into this A-frame that goes to the shop, and we're able to use this pot to pick a pig up with a chain hoist and then put them into that scalding pot, front half first, back half second, and you know, the whole scalding process. And that's why I put this here, because we scald pigs right here at the butcher shop pretty regularly. But what I've discovered here recently was born out of Jill's videos about bone broth. You know, we raise cattle, we raise chickens, and we wind up with a lot of bones, and a lot of the bones, you know, usually the butcher hangs on to them and sells them to a renderer or something like that, but the bones have become kind of a liability. They're not really good for much, or haven't been good for much. But I got to thinking, okay, we're taking a handful of bones back from them when we get a beef done, so we have them in the fridge or the freezer, and we can make bone broth out of them. Well, I'm feeding 150 pigs here. Why aren't I making bone broth for them? I have talked to you before about hog chow and how I think hog chow is not something you want to be using because of the raw protein that's in it. Raw protein is everything from poodles to Pekingese that they just grind up dry and loaded into the feed because, you know, pigs are omnivores, chickens are omnivores. They have to have meat protein to grow properly. But if they're grinding up pigs to feed to pigs, and pigs have parasites that other pigs can get, does it stand to reason that we're going to transfer some of those parasites to our pigs from other farms? And we don't want to do that. But where are we going to get the protein for those guys? Well, in my case, in the summertime, we're butchering 500 chickens here a week, and I have lots of feet, lots of heads, necks, and all that stuff. So my pigs get that. But what about the wintertime? Where are we going to get our protein source? Well, typically people turn to vegetable proteins. That's good. Pigs are omnivores. They need animal proteins. So where are we going to get that? Well, enter the scalder and this technique. As I've shared this with some friends whose grandparents were farmers, they said, oh yeah, Grandma had a pot going all the time where she was making slop under it. And I think slop, we think about, you know, garbage, but it doesn't have to be. Okay, my pot right now, see, I got my top on there, and it's been simmering all morning. It's nice and hot. I had a bag of beef bones up in the house. I had a ton of bread, and I still have a ton of bread. And I had some old packages of fat that have been in the freezer too long. And when they've been in there more than a month, we won't use them because they can take on the flavor of the, you know, if it doesn't get rendered. So I put that in there. Then I put in some diatomaceous earth. I keep a bag in the butcher shop. I go through that stuff about a bag a month. I put in a couple of scoops of kelp from the ocean, you know, kelp made out of seaweed, or granulated kelp made out of kelp from the ocean. Heavy duty minerals in that. And then I put in about a half a cup of mineral, actually a scoop of mineral, which is like salt. It flavors it. What else could I put in there? Well, I got a farmer up here that grows potatoes, and he's always needing to get rid of his cull potatoes, and those would be the ones with cuts in them, or too big or too small or whatever. Feeding raw potatoes to pigs is kind of sketchy sometimes. Mangalitsas do okay on it, but regular farm pigs have a tough time with it for a variety of reasons I won't go into right now. But Mangalitsa's can do okay on raw potatoes. But if we cook them, they're far more palatable. It'll mix with other things, and you know, they'll like it better. We don't want any feed left on the ground after we feed. And what we really want, you know, I'm out here right now. You can see there's pigs over there. Right here, there's a Larry, a Snowball, and 3 babies, or 4 babies. And they're not concerned with me. The reason for that is because they're fed. They got full bellies. And if you're feeding pigs and they're screaming at you as soon as you come out the door, then they don't have enough. But I gave them a load of feed. I put some of this gravy on it that I'm making here. This is what we're calling it, the gravy pot now. And they chow it down. It's gone. So, something to think about. I'll go into later. I don't want to go too long. Already went too long. I'll go into later on ways you can make a gravy pot to use around the farm out of materials that you might have around. It's Mark from Baker's Green Acres. Anyone can farm.